in Deutsch. Okay, so let's start. So welcome everybody to this lecture tonight, which is about trust in yourself and in life. And this is, of course, a big subject that we will get into. But it is very important for us to have trust in life, to have someone we can believe in, someone who is loyal to us, someone who can help us when we are in problems. So it is important to work on this trust. Because today on this planet, of course, there are so many things that are totally the opposite of trust. There are so many things that brings fear and discomfort and unrest into our lives. So if we look at life today, we know there are lots of catastrophes. There are earthquakes, floodings. There has been a heat wave, even in England. And there are so many things going on that we cannot really control. And of course, it's very difficult for us to feel trust when this happens. And we know that there are also so many people who are poor, and they don't know where the next meal will come from. And they might not have money for just their basic needs. So many people have very difficult situations on this planet. And then, of course, we have these terrible wars. We have many wars going on right now, but of course we are also very much worried about the war in Ukraine. And it's kind of a new situation where we feel also in the Western world that we are threatened, that there are many things which are not peace and love and understanding any longer, but totally the opposite. So is it really possible then in this kind of world to have some kind of trust in yourself, trust in other people, trust in life? And Martinus says, yes, there is a possibility to feel trust, but in order to do that, we need cosmic knowledge. And he says here in an article, the true and absolute cause of fear is spiritual or cosmic ignorance. Therefore, fear cannot be combated with force and power, but on the contrary, exclusively with cosmic knowledge. Only absolute cosmic knowledge gives to the same degree of unshakable trust. So we need cosmic knowledge in order to be able to trust life and to go beyond the fear of death. For actually, what is the root of all our fears? Why are we really afraid? Well, that is because we are afraid of dying. We are afraid of losing this body. But is this body really everything that we have? Are we only a body? Well, Martinus says, no, we are so much more. There is so much more to us. And he describes that we are eternal living beings. We have always existed, and we will always exist. And there is no way that we can actually really relax in life if we don't know that we will always exist. Otherwise, we will always be afraid of losing this body. So many people today are identifying with a body. They think, this is me, it has to look very nice, I have to be very good at all kinds of things. And if something happens to this body or the things that I can achieve in this life, then we have a lot of discomfort in our lives. But gradually, with cosmic knowledge, we will begin to understand that we are eternal, we are something more. We will think of ourselves as something bigger. And that bigger is, of course, at the core, God itself. So there is this transition that we are in right now, where we are going from a materialistic world into understanding more of spirituality. And here we will also start to focus on something new in our lives, of this being of being an eternal being. In order to have trust in life, we also need to understand evolution. We have to understand that what happens to us is there for a purpose. We have to go through suffering, we have to go through both light and darkness in order to develop, to evolve. And without that understanding, we will not be able to accept who we are, and we cannot accept other people, who they are. So that is also a basic knowledge we need to have. And we also need to understand that everything is actually God. There is nothing outside God. We are part of God, and everything that surrounds us is also part of God, or is God itself. So we could say that these three things are very important to be able to start feeling trust, to start getting away from our fears in life. So then, what is this evolution, and why is there any fear? Couldn't God have taken that away? Is there any meaning of going through these difficulties, darkness? Well, Martinus says that in the spiral cycle, we have to be able to experience these higher kingdoms. We have to renew our consciousness. And that is done here in the animal kingdom, in the latter part of the animal kingdom. And that is actually in the animal kingdom, that's the only part of all of this evolution where we are able to be afraid, where we don't have total trust. In the other kingdoms, we will feel at one with God. There will always be light. But right now we are going through a lot of difficulties. And these difficulties, they start off in a way when we are animals, that stage that we are living in a way, but Martinus says we are not really human beings right now. We are, as he calls us, terrestrial human beings. So it's a kind of mixture of both the animal, the egoistic side, and the humane side. But animals, they get afraid. For example, this prey here, I think it is a gazelle, I'm not really sure, but it is getting very afraid of the lion, and it starts running. And of course, there is a purpose of this fright, this fear that it's feeling, because it gets the gazelle here running, so it can run away from the lion. And then maybe 10 minutes later, it will be grazing peacefully and not being afraid any longer. But the fear, it started up some hormones and different things in the body that made the prey run away here. So it is very good for animals. It is really on purpose that they have this fear. But for us, it's a little bit different because we are constantly afraid. We are afraid of not having enough money, or if we have money, we are afraid of losing it. And we are afraid of losing our partner, or maybe of not finding a partner. And there are constantly things that are in our mind that create this discomfort within ourselves. So Martinus says about this, while fear in the animal is but an essential, effective, and indispensable warning signal, and is therefore something good, the same fear, when it dominates the terrestrial human being, is an even greater evil the more developed it is in a humane or human direction. So for us, it's not that good. Fear will create sickness and lots of difficulties in us. And he says, as previously mentioned, it can completely undermine the consciousness of the being, leading it to insanity, nervous breakdown, or even suicide. So the consequences of having fear in your body, of constantly being afraid, can actually be quite great. So therefore, it is really important for us to see if we can meet that fear that we have within us and see how we can work with that. So of course, that has been done throughout history, and it has been done very much with the help of religions. So in different religions, we have all kinds of ceremonies and rituals that help people to feel comfort, to feel that they don't have to be afraid, that God is there, someone else is taking care of them. So think of confession, for example, in the Catholic Church. There you confess your sins, and then the priest can say, now your sins are gone. And of course, that is very relaxing for us. Martinus, of course, would say you can't take away your karma in that way. But it has been very helpful with all these kinds of rituals. And of course, they are still very helpful. It's helpful at a funeral, for example, that people can cry and also comfort each other. So these rituals still play a very big part in human society. But many people today, they can't be comforted by religion. They can't believe in religion. They can't believe in the way that religions present themselves. And people have been to schools and universities, and so many more people today are believing into natural science. So, of course, natural science is also something that can bring security to your life. You can get medicines, you can get all kinds of stuff that help you to have a very comfortable life. We have planes and trains and computers and all these things. So, of course, science is really something good for humanity, and it has helped us to evolve very quickly in the last century especially. But it doesn't really help when we are having big problems. For example, when someone dies, when there is a disease that they can't cure, when people are depressed, it doesn't really help that we know the distance to the moon or that we know so many things in natural science. It can't really help that person who is really distressed, really into sorrows, really into fear. So there is something else needed. And that is why Martinus says that we are now at a point where we need to have cosmic science. We have to have a combination of the logic that we found in natural science, but we have to apply that logic also into cosmic science and to mix both of them. And that is what we will do in the future to really understand the laws of life. Not only the natural laws, but also the laws which have to do with consciousness, our lives, reincarnation, karma, and so on. So Martinus, he calls this the parent principle, that there are always parents who take care of us in evolution. So there are always beings who are walking ahead of us, who are a little bit more evolved and who can inspire us. And these beings have, in the past, actually been dark beings. So we have here in the past, we have been inspired by what he calls dark world redeemers. But that belongs to the past, and they are not here any longer, because they inspired us to be geniuses in the killing principles, to kill and to lie and all these things that belongs to the killing principle. That is what we became a genius in. And now, but because of that, we got into a lot of suffering. Because we caused a lot of suffering, we also suffered ourselves. That was the law of karma. It was coming back to us. So when that came back, people started to cry out and wanting something else. So they wanted a new kind of religion. And that is what we have had now for about 2,000 years. And Martinus often, he mentions the three big religions, Buddhism and Islam and Christianity. And of course they have, and there are more of them, but they have inspired so many people on this planet to start thinking about the good. How can I create the good? And actually believe that goodness is possible. But Jesus, he couldn't really explain to people how life was organized, because 2,000 years ago, people hadn't been to universities. They didn't have the kind of education that we have today. So he had to tell people simple stories and just give them some simple pieces of advice so that they could move forward. But as I said today, now it's the time when we need something new. And we who are here, who are interested in spiritual science, we are interested in that because we have left the dark world redeemers, but also the big world religions mostly behind us. And we need something new. We need something else that can inspire us to understand how life is organized. So let us get back to the question of trust. So then, today, how can we trust other people? How is it possible? Because we all need people who support us, who can help us. And no one of us can live on our own. That is really depressing. But can we actually trust people? Isn't it like that we quite often will be disappointed with other people? So the first thing we can do to actually create a trustful relationship, that is to be reliable ourselves. We have to sow before we can reap. So we have to start off with being loyal, listening to people, being there, helping out. That is the way that we, in the next step, also can get a trustful relationship back. But we can also use the cosmic science to actually analyze and understand both ourselves and other people. Because there are many big misconceptions today about who people are, and we can't really understand ourselves either. We tend today, in modern society, to think that all people are at the same level. If it's a grown-up, it can take care of itself, and if I can do it, you can do it as well. But it is not as simple as that. Because people might look the same on the outside. But if we could look into their spiritual abilities, their talent kernels, we could see that some people in the last incarnation, they were living like natives maybe. And some people are very religious, and some people are very intelligent. There are so many different kinds of people. And Martinus has showed in this symbol, and he calls this the human superstition about our neighbor. So this is a little bit what we do today. We look around and we see different people and we place them on the same stage or the same step here. And we think that they are able to do or to react or be the same. But actually we can see we have a green figure here. It's someone who is dominated by intelligence. So let's say that there is a catastrophe. What would a person that is dominated by intelligence do? Well, that person is very, very structured. It would help to structure and organize and thinking in a logical way. And then we have these people who are dominated by feeling. They might react in another way in a catastrophe. Maybe they will help out and comfort people and support and organized other kinds of things. So they will also be very helpful. And then we have these other people here who are dominated by instinct and might not have developed so much of intelligence and feeling. Those people can be more absorbed by themselves. They might just run away and not help out at all in this catastrophe. Or they might even take advantage of it and go into some houses and rob and take things and so on. But on the surface, these people might look the same. They might all have smart dresses and nice jobs and so on. But when there is really something difficult going on, not all of these people are loyal. So Martinus says, this is the true conception of our neighbor. We are on different levels, and we will react in many different ways when we are hit by difficulties. And it is important for us to start and see, where am I on these steps? Who am I? And in what way can I react? And my nearest, my partner, my family, my friends, where are they? And this is not judging. It's not about judging people. It's about actually understanding and having a more realistic view on other people and including ourselves. So it is actually very easy to be disappointed by people. And I think you have noticed that the people who are closest to you, sooner or later you will get disappointed. You didn't expect that person to be in that way or react in that way, but it will happen. Because we have within ourselves both the humane sides where we can be very nice and helpful, but sometimes when we are triggered by difficulties, it can be more the egoistic side that is talking, and we might do things that we didn't even think that we would do ourselves. So actually, we have to learn not to expect so much from ourselves and from other people. And in that way, we will gradually learn not to be so disappointed with each other. And then, of course, in the same way that we will try and be reliable ourselves, and that is something we can reap, we can also stop to redo other people and think that something is wrong, you have to alter this, you have to change. No, we have to realize that the only person that we can change is ourselves. That is really our study object. That is really what we can work with. Of course, we can help other people and if they want our advice, but it's not that we can redo something. Everybody has to do that himself, herself. And then, as we have heard this week already, we can always use prayer. With a prayer, we can always ask for help how to inspire other people and how to create a trustful relationship to others. And the reason why we get disappointed with each other, that is that where we are right now in our evolution, and we can see our evolution over here. Here we have the animal kingdom, and here we have the stages where we are apes and we become natives. And civilization right now is centered in these two steps. And we are heading towards the real human kingdom where we will get the cosmic consciousness. But if we look aside here, we can see that the killing principle is really active where we are right now. I can't step outside without accidentally stepping on an ant or something. And so we have this killing going on. But not only killing, because in the next figure here, we have the thought climates that are created from the killing principle. And that can be that we can be very angry, or we can say bad things about other people. We might be jealous and greedy. All these kinds of things are still here. They are still within us. And something that is staying with us even longer, that is the thought climates which has to do with arrogance and thinking that we are the best. So that is something that we are all hit by. We all think we are the best. And in a way that's something we can understand, because we all have our personal experiences. And because of them, I am the only one who sees life from my perspective. So I think that I have the best perspective. But that is actually the same thing from every living being has its own perspective. So this arrogance, it takes some time until it will leave us. We can see that it's even following us up here. It's also vanity, wanting to be the best and so on. Martinus also talks about the transformation of the poles. So right now what is happening is that the male side in me, the male pole in me is growing, and the female pole in men is growing. So because of this, we could basically say that everybody right now is having problems with relations, marriage, being a parent, and so on. Never trust a partner. That's my best advice. Or try to build a trustful relationship with your partner, where you know that when we say to each other, I love you and I will love you forever, then from what we can learn from Martinus, we know that at the stage where we are right now, it's not really true. It's not true, because we will sooner or later fall out of that love, and then later we might be interested in someone else. So that's how it is today, and if we understand that, it can also be easier for us to deal with our partnerships, and we can be more open to each other about these things. So these, what Martinus call birth pangs from the transformation of the pole, they are really very much evolving right now, with divorces, kids not being taken care of, and all kinds of things. But that's also a natural stage that we have to go through until we can reach higher steps in evolution. So then we talked about how to trust other people. How can I trust myself? And I will use then two words that come from psychology: self-esteem and self-confidence. And these are things that most people are in a way working on. And self-esteem, that is more how you value yourself, how much you like yourself. And that means that if we really value and respect ourselves, we will also accept and understand us. We can see where are we on our way in evolution. And if we have a good self-esteem, we will stand up for ourselves. We won't let other people suppress us. We will feel free to express our opinions. And we will make reasonable demands on ourselves. So if we don't have a good self-esteem, then we might try to do something, to achieve something that we really can't do. We will demand so many things from ourselves. But today, people might not have so good self-esteem. People are more centered into self-confidence, which is more what we can accomplish, what we can do. For example, if we have an education, then we might have a good self-confidence in that area. Think of a person who is a librarian, for example, and is working at the library, and people come up and ask questions, and that person has a good self-confidence and will just answer and feel that it can really handle all these situations. But then it might be a work colleague who says, wouldn't you like to join our choir? We are singing in a choir, it would be nice if you could join us. And this person doesn't know if he or she can sing. And if that person has a good self-esteem, that person might say, oh, that's nice, I will try out. I might not be very good, but it would be interesting to try it out. But if the person has bad self-esteem, the person will say, oh, I'm sorry, Wednesday, I'm fully booked. So there you will find excuses. So self-confidence comes from education and the surrounding, and we have different self-confidence in different areas. And quite often we have this fear of going outside what we feel safe. I remember a book publisher who was talking about all the people sending manuscripts and wanting books to be published. It is, of course, very nice to write books and publish books and so on. Nothing wrong with that. But this publisher, he realized that these persons, they were so hooked on their books, and they thought that once the book was published, everything in their lives would solve itself. And there would just be peace and harmony. And then he could see that when he had published the books, of course people were happy, it was nice to show to the world what they could do, they got a better self-confidence, but it didn't really affect their self-esteem. It didn't mean that they really started loving themselves, and it didn't sort out their relationships or other difficulties. So we can see that what we really need to work on is our self-esteem, which is at its core our love and understanding with ourselves. And we know from cosmology that we are not in a hurry. We can let ourselves step by step learn things, and we can enjoy the steps we are on. It is not that it's more fun on the next step in a way until we have finished the step we are on. We cannot enjoy the next step. So with good self-esteem, we can let ourselves evolve in a slow and nice way. Of course, in psychology, one would say that a good self-esteem comes from good parenting, parents who respect you, listen to you, good schooling, and so on. But we know that that is only karma, so we have to create that ourselves. So self-esteem comes from respecting other people. It comes from listening to other people. It comes from valuing other people. That is the way it can come back to us. So how to create then trust in yourself? We have to stop judging ourselves. We are as good as we are, and we can't be anything else. And we go through exactly the things that we have to go through in order to evolve. And we can use cosmic science, as I said, to analyze ourselves and to analyze other beings. We also have to understand a little bit about the balance of intelligence and feeling. Maybe our parents said to us, oh, you should be a doctor. And then we work a lot at school, and in the end we become a doctor. But maybe that was not really what we wanted to do. Maybe we had this big capacity to be an artist. Maybe we were more dominated by feeling. So it is important to understand this. And Martinus says that in the future we will have in schools, the pupils will get advice and support to find their own way. And that is what we should do, find our own way and not listen so much to what surrounding us say. We also mentioned the transformation of the poles. And that is also an area where we might just have stepped into something that we didn't really like. It might be that we went into a marriage, that we started a family, that we think that we have to live in a certain way that doesn't suit us. So it is important to find out, where am I in this transformation? What kind of relationships can function for me? Because otherwise we will inevitably be in a lot of sorrows. And we also have to understand that we don't have access to our whole self. In this lifetime, there might be certain aspects of me that I'm working with, and there might be other things that I'm not working with and which are not up on the surface right now. So we are so much more than we know. And that also applies to other people. They are also so much more than we see. So we can trust other people to have more inside them. We can trust ourselves to be bigger than we think. And then, of course, as someone said also the other day, we must stop being a victim. When we think of ourselves as victim, as for other influences, that others are causing everything that is wrong to us, then of course we are not taking responsibilities for our own lives. And that is what we have to do to create trust in ourselves. So we could say that a deep trust can only be created through deep contact with God. And I really like this symbol where we have the individual being here in the middle, that here you can think of yourself with the I, the faculty to create an experience, and the created world. And we can see what is around us is always God. Everything around us is God. So we can totally trust that there is nothing else except for God. Wherever I go, I will always be in contact with God. I can always ask God for help, and I will always be, as I said, surrounded. And Martinus says actually in the symbol explanation that this dark area here, it doesn't really exist. He's just painted it so we can see the differences between the individual little person and the big God. But actually, they are always merged together. So we are always at one with God. But we are at a stage right now where we don't really understand that. So to love God above all things and his neighbor as himself, that is also the way that we create a deep trust in life. And we can also see that we have, as Lena talked about this morning, we have these different levels of spiritual beings here, and they will communicate with us down here in different ways. So there are so many ways that we can get inspiration from the spiritual world. And even if we are lost in the woods and we break our leg and we think that we will just die there, we could still ask for help. We could pray to God, and God can send inspiration to someone who will just pass accidentally on the same road. So there is always these beings behind us. And as Solveig also talked about, there are these guardian angels behind us. They are everywhere helping us. Then we also have to think a little bit about our microbeing and our microcosmos, because the way that we treat our body, that is also something we will reap in the outside world. So if I don't treat my body in a good way, if I give it food that it can't digest, if I smoke and drink alcohol and so on, I will create a disaster in my body. And it will be like a natural catastrophe in my body. We call it sickness. So that is, of course, one thing that will happen, but we could also get back all these catastrophes that we saw in the beginning. So these catastrophes are, one part of it is that they are caused and they are karma because of the way that we treat our body. So we can also create a trustful relationship to our body with the way that we eat and drink and thoughts, feelings, we sleep, we have exercise, social life. To really be careful with all these things, we will start to have a trustful relationship with our microbeings, and they will know, okay, it's 12 o'clock, quite soon she will eat, let's prepare for the food which will come down. So having regular habits, it's helping our microbeings a lot. And of course, we can trust them and they can trust us. And that is also trust that we will reap in nature and not having all these catastrophes around us. So it is actually a very huge part of how we create trust in life, that is feeding our microbeings with the right food, the right thoughts. And these ones, can they trust us? Well, they can't really. Maybe here at the center they can trust us. But there are so many millions and millions of farm animals killed on this planet. And it's a big misconception. We think that they are stupid and we can just kill them and eat them. Of course, that is a kind of derailment that happened very long ago, and people are still keeping to it because it's a tradition. It's a habit to eat meat. But it is interesting, I think, that in science today they find so much evidence of animals and how they are intelligent and much more evolved than we have thought. For example, cows, they are very social and they like to hang out with their best mates. So they have the best friends. And they can also recognize faces. They recognize a lot of different cows. And the same goes with sheep. They also have their favorite friends and recognize people and so on. And pigs, I think, are probably the most intelligent of the animals that are killed for eating on this planet, or one of the most intelligent. And it is said that pigs, they pass the so-called mirror test. So the mirror test, it's some of you have heard of it, I'm sure. It's a test where you place a mirror in front of the animal, and then you try to see if that animal will recognize itself. And you do that, you paint a dot maybe in the forehead. So the animal is looking at itself, and then it tries to take it away. And then you know for sure that the animal understands that it is there. So if you do that with small kids, they will recognize themselves and take away that dot when they are around the age of 2 years. And pigs can do the same. And they can also place, if they have a mirror here, they can also hide food. But the food is seen in the mirror. And the pig can understand that it can turn around and find that food behind itself. So pigs are really intelligent. So probably more intelligent than a 2-year-old. So when we think about that, it's a catastrophe, the way that we treat animals. If we think, we can't even imagine treating small kids like that. So we really have to stop killing animals. And that, of course, will create a total new planet with peace. We can't have peace on this planet with all of these animals who are just afraid of being killed. And that is something that we hope will go away quite soon. But also in our society today, so much is built on trust. So, for example, when I traveled here, I was going on the bridge from Malmö to Copenhagen. And of course, when I drive on the bridge, I have total confidence in the engineers who constructed it. So I just trust them that they did it in the right way. And the same thing when I go into an airplane, I trust them to have full control. So there are so many things in our society, like banks. When I put my money into a bank, I trust the bank not to steal the money. Haha. So our welfare society is very much built on trust. But we can see today, as this haha indicates, that we are not trusting our society so much any longer. And we can see now for a time people have stopped trusting politicians and authorities and the economic system. And actually we are at a point where there will be more distrust in the future. And Martinus even says that we are in a way heading towards dictatorship in many countries. So we are right now at a difficult time where we can't really trust things in the society. And we will have some time now where it will be difficulties with money, difficulties probably with lots of things. I can see the welfare state slowly breaking down in my own country, in Sweden, where transports are not working, post is not working. That's because of Denmark, that's another story. You bought our Swedish post company. Anyhow, there are many things which do not function as they used to do, and probably we will see more of it. And Martinus says that we are on the verge, or it has already started, this conflict between also different countries. There is not trust between different countries, and that will create war, which is the situation which we are in. And there might be several wars. So we have difficult times ahead of us, and then this question comes into mind even more. What can I trust? How can I not be in fear when all of this is happening? And we have to really work with cosmic science here and really work with ourselves. And we are right now here in the animal kingdom, and we can see what is happening. What is breaking down welfare states today is the killing principle. And as Solveig said yesterday, the elephant in the room, capitalism, the worship of money, that is what is breaking down, or at its core, egoism. So, but gradually, because of all the suffering we go through, both our feeling and our intelligence will grow. And when they grow and they get into balance, that is when we can get into contact with intuition. And intuition is our own possibility to actually see the cosmic laws, to understand how cosmos is organized, to understand ourselves. So step, by studying and also by suffering, we will get into more balance. So it is very important to know now when we are going into these difficult times, it's important to know that these difficulties are because so many people haven't suffered enough and they need to learn more, and that is what is happening. So if this wouldn't happen, that would be like small children. They couldn't grow up, they couldn't evolve. We also have to let children make their own experiences, and that is what's happening on this planet right now. So eventually we will have more of intuition in ourselves. We will be more able to create peace and trust in ourselves, with our nearest and dearest, and in society. So in a way, we have to rebuild our society. We have to rebuild ourselves. The foundation was not really solid because we still had this killing principle, the animal thoughts, the egoism. We had that within ourselves. So that has to go, and we have to rebuild ourselves. And that is what Martinus says will happen when we can build a new world kingdom. And he talks about that might be possible in another 500 years. So here we can see that all the different countries are pointing towards the same star, meaning that all countries, they might be different cultures, languages, and so on, but they still have the same ideals, and they have the same leaders who have cosmic consciousness. So, of course, we cannot create this right now. It's not happening right now. But we can start and create a little bit of this within our own communities, in our relationships and so on. Because at work or in our family and so on, we can actually talk with each other. We can see, can we have the same goals? Can we have the same tools to reach these goals? Let's see if we can unite. And every group that can unite and work towards the same goal, it is like a little light that is lightening up on this dark earth. So even if this seems to be very far ahead of us and we think, it has nothing to do with me, actually it has something to do with us, because it is created right now within ourselves, and there will be these small communities, these small groups of people who start work together in a harmonious way, and they can inspire other, and they can inspire other. So that is the way that we can create a new world with trust and peace and love and understanding. So let us all be part of that. And Martinus says, I will end here with a quotation where Martinus talks about what happens when we lift the fear out of our bodies. And here he says, at that very moment that one places the entire experienced pain in God's hands and frees oneself from anxiety and fear, from destructive forces or hate and bitterness, then a radiant angel will penetrate one's aura, and the presence of God will be felt so intensely that fear and sorrow will disappear from one's mind. Thank you very much for listening.